Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the next part of the Bang Shishigami project, which is coming after a very exciting Saturday. This is actually about as close to live as I can get. This video is actually going to be posted tonight. So I know when I started this whole project, I was like a week ahead. Well, we're not a week ahead right now. I just had the race yesterday. Everything, well, if you want to know about that, go back to the previous video. Yesterday was definitely a thing. But as we can see, before we get started, my whole layout now has changed. So first off, today is going to be, generally speaking, we're going to do kind of a light sanding on stuff that looks like it needs sanding on here. Then we're just going to prime things. So the goal for the end of today is this going to look a whole lot worse, actually, by the end of today. And then we're going to build it back up to better once we get the colors going. But just a rundown of what we have. I have a gazillion different brushes and stuff. These are all kind of like the cheapy ones. Because again, I'm just kind of starting out on the painting end of things. As I had mentioned earlier, I had heard a phrase, it takes about 7,000 hours of whatever activity you're doing to be considered a quote-unquote master at it. And if I go to my work environment and my job, I probably have about 40,000 or so hours worth of work at my job. When it comes to painting specifically at my job, it's probably maybe 5,000 of those were probably painting hours, give or take. When it comes to the modeling end of things, like making him, I have about 500 hours worth of experience doing the modeling side. When it comes to painting models, I have about 30. So we're still in the early stages of figuring out this specific application of paint. And when you're starting something new, you generally kind of start with the cheapy stuff, figure out what works, what doesn't, and then you upgrade from there. So right now, I have like another pack of 50 brushes off to the side. They're kind of the cheapy things. I can probably find better stuff there. In addition to that, we have a menagerie of kind of metallic paints here with like the satins and the semi-glosses all on this side. And then we have all of our mattes and flats and stuff are all kind of parked on that side. And yeah, that's where we're starting. So all we're going to do is, I'll be honest, I'm still not 100% sold on the hair. If I had more time before the race, all some things got kind of crazy the last couple days before the race. I could have done a third attempt at that where I don't have as much stuff in the back. Again, it's a standalone element. I can always redo this any given point I want and just re-put it on. I can even finish painting everything and come back. But at the same time, the last couple of days, it's kind of been growing on me a little bit. I know it doesn't necessarily match Tim on the side. It fits his scruffy guy mantra, again, that's a nickname he's given in the game, his scruffy guy. And it fits that, and it's growing on me. Maybe I'll see how it looks with the paint stuff. And then after that, if I'm doing the base or whatnot, I can always then come back and swap it out. But for now, it is kind of growing on me. But first thing we need to do is we need to disassemble everything. So we finally get to see just how many parts this actually has. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, I want to be real careful taking that out because I do see a little teeny crack that kind of come. It doesn't go all the way to the top, doesn't go all the way to the bottom. Just a little something, I guess, from popping that. So I'm going to be real careful with that piece. That's right, I already forgot the back of the scarf here was separate. It has been several days since I've been on this, so. Ooh, that is a tight fit. Trying to be very careful pulling this stuff out. Okay. You guys all come out. Alright, let's move the base out of the way. The base we don't need anymore. That's now 100% gone. And okay, so how do we want to put these things? So I'm going to have all my little guys be kind of up front. I can put the little guys up front on that. And I can keep the big guys all separate. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 separate pieces for bang. I guess somebody's going to go back there. Okay. So I have some 100. I have 120 grit. Or actually, this is 220 grit here. Actually, it's 320. All right, 320 grit on this one I can use, and I have another 120 grit for kind of any heavier things, but just anything that wants to be kind of smooth or flat. Or if I see like little air pockets and stuff that kind of stick out, I'm just going to do just a real quick buzz. I'm not going to do a heavy sanding on this stuff. It's just enough to get any kind of roughness out and not much more. Usually if you have like heavy like geometric form, something that really wants to be smooth, yeah, that's the main focus on this. Sanding isn't going to be a cure-all for everything. It's just to take off kind of light edges and whatnot. Otherwise, despite yesterday's race activities, I'm actually feeling pretty okay today. Upper body is actually relatively sore. I definitely put in a lot of work on there. Again, if you have seen the other video, I am pretty adept at doing like the obstacle stuff pretty, especially early on in the race. I'm pretty good at that. I can just kind of beast things out instantly. But I tend to be more geared towards like the beast distance, the half marathon distance, or the ultra marathon distance. In those races, statistically, you have about a half mile between obstacles. As you get shorter and shorter in the distance category, obstacles come more frequently. So for this one, there was maybe an obstacle every close to a quarter mile or so, and that frequency of stuff did a number on my arms. Not super heavy, but they're like the deltoids are sore, and biceps are sore a little bit. I do have my right kind of lower back got a little sore, and that was dismounting from Twister, which was obstacle number 3, where if you're coming off of like say a monkey bars, you're coming off of Twister, coming off of beater, coming off of multi-rig, coming off of any like the handhold ones that you like find as a children's kind of jungle gym area, you need to steady yourself first before dropping down. It really helps, because if you don't and if you're coming through and you kind of swing out and drop down, you tend to land in an awkward angle. So when I dismounted from Twister, I reached out for the bell. I didn't grab onto the last handhold. Instead I reached for the bell to hit that, and I wound up just dropping after that, kind of slightly awkward. So I kind of tweaked just minorly my lower back, and it's not terrible, but I am feeling a little bit of that today. I've done much worse in the past, but it was a good early race reminder on like, oh yeah, duh. Let's get the basics right. As you can see, my goal isn't going super heavy on this. It's just anything it's hitting means it's hitting a part that's sticking out just a little bit. So, and that's all I'm aiming at. Now, nice thing with clay is clay doesn't have the same problem with wood when you try to sand it. Because if you go and you sand wood, one of the properties of, or at least that wood has that clay does not, is when wood gets wet, it curls. If you want to know how to make like the curving armchairs and stuff, and like the piece of the wood they bend, they apply steam, they apply heat, they apply moisture, and under extreme heat and moisture, the things can bend properly into the shape. Then you cool it off, and it will retain that shape. So what happens when you sand wood is the individual wood grains are still there. They get the moisture in it from the paint, or from the, again, I'm going to putting the primer on here, so the moisture from the primer is going to curl every single one of those wood grains, and usually it actually gets rougher after the priming coat, or much rougher on the priming coat than you think it would. So that after that, once you sand it again, that sands off all those little extra grains, and subsequent painting modes are much neater. But clay, that's not really an issue. Clay, we don't need to worry about that. So I'm just doing a sanding mode kind of once, and that should be about it. And even then, I'm not doing much on this. I'm anticipating this being a shorter session because I'm just going to prime it and end there. And then as we do the painting stuff, I'm going to try to fill out the time a little more. But this one, I'm a little sore. Like I said, my legs are actually fine. My legs actually aren't too bad. I'm going up and down the stairs just fine. Everything seems to be working out in that regard. So I'm thinking a lot of the problems I had yesterday were really just that result of the heat and humidity and just not being able to perspire at all. Again, if you have 100% humidity outside, you perspire. It's the evaporation of the water on you that helps cool you off. And I just had whatever I was perspiring was doing nothing. It couldn't evaporate in the air because the air was already saturated. And I know I'm using that as an excuse because everyone else in the course did the same thing. And actually, after I made the video, I finally looked at my times and places and all that. But competitively, I was garbage. I think it was like out of 400 and some people, I think I was like 360 or so. So competitively, I was not good. Overall on the day, if we go on everybody on the day, elites, the open category and whatnot, I was in the top 30%. I think I was like 29.2% in the top thing. But competitively speaking, I just had a bad day. And that's fine. Again, we get those. Those things happen every now and again. The trick is you try to learn from what went wrong and go from there. And the fun part with a bad day too is it kind of makes you want to go back and do it again just to kind of prove that it was a bad day. So even though I always sign up for these dang July races, like I said, I've done that race now like 5 times in July. I have a duathlon that I run kind of in the general area. And that one, again, a duathlon is you run rather than a triathlon, which is the swim, bike, run. A duathlon is run, bike, run, because I didn't grow up with swimming. But I have a duathlon near me that I tend to do, and that one is always run on the exact same weekend. So pretty much every single year, even though I am built for cold weather, like I said, I go running in shorts when it's 25 degrees outside. So that is comfortable for me. But every year I always do either the Pomeranian race or this other duathlon race. And it's always on the same weekend. And I always get myself in trouble. And I still remember the one duathlon one I did, it was like either 10 or 15 years ago. It was another one of those stupid hot days. Like the sun had come out, it was like 95 degree heat index going on. We were on the final run. We're kind of going between farms and whatnot. So there are no trees on the side. There's no shade on the side. Not just me. There's like a line of us, and like all of us, we're just dying out there. And the race director drives by us in his golf cart. He looks back and he yells out, "Remember, you guys paid to do this." And every time I get myself into like one of these like heat-induced problem areas, my mind just goes right back to him in his golf cart going past this. You paid to do this. And it makes me smile every time. Because it's so true. But no, the legs are doing fine right now. I guess, like I said, tomorrow morning will be the real test. Today things are usually a little sore, and then it might hit a little harder tomorrow, because again, if you have inflammation, again, the stiffness is going to come from minor inflammation in the joints and whatnot, and usually that peaks for me, at least right now, after about a day and a half to 2 days. So I'm feeling a little something now. I might feel a little more tomorrow, but overall, I'm doing better than I anticipated feeling at this moment. So this is making me feel a lot more confident towards the Killington perspective. Because, yeah, yesterday was a body check in terms of Killington prep. And to be honest, Killington is going to be 5 times the length of what I just did. and it actually has slightly more elevation gain per mile than this one had. So yesterday was not giving me confidence. I am feeling a lot better now. And I'm looking at this, it looks like it's a crack going down, but that was actually a line that was made coming down through. So I should have made that more pronounced, but didn't. As you can see, I'm sanding the big kind of overarching areas. I'm not going to be sanding kind of down in any of the detail stuff. Those can kind of just be what they are. I don't want to accidentally destroy something I shouldn't. So yeah, I'm not killing it with this. I'm just doing a real light over a number of areas. Kind of like how we use the mineral spirits to smooth things out. We're using this just to smooth out some of those areas just a little bit more. I think I'm not sure how useful this is on these models. I know I've heard on the 3D printed ones. Again, I haven't done 3D printing ever, but those apparently need a decent amount of sanding too, just to get kind of the machine marks and whatnot off of that. And if you're doing molds or whatnot, where you have the little kind of channels to get the whatever material you're using to get into a mold, you just sand those parts out. So different applications, different situations are going to require different sanding requirements to get it all to look good. But here I just want to do just a real light something. Just get if there are any noticeably kind of big things that are sticking up, this just kind of knocks it off. And that is that. Then we'll get into priming. Priming will make this look absolutely terrible. And I'm just warning you that up front. Priming will make this look terrible. But it will come back after. Although I'm probably going to be starting with skin tones first. And skin tones are going to make it look even worse. Because skin is semi-translucent. And in order to account for that, I tend to use different colors for different coats, so that if you can see through one coat, you'll see underneath to the other. So if you have blood vessels and all that, my first coat on the skin tone, he is going to look beyond sunburn. It's going to be kind of probably more of a reddish, kind of pinkish, or actually more of a deeper red kind of pink undertone color. And then we put the actual kind of skin tone on top of that. So just be warned, this guy will look very funky in the early stages of this painting. That's also why when I was showing it, I forget, it had to have been like the hair or something I was showing on my cat model. Or it was the face on the cat model. I kind of had it zoomed it up close. I had it, zoomed up real close, and it looked blotchy as all get out in that face video. I forget what number it was, but you look up the face videos at the start. The reason it looked blotchy was, I had done a real dark undertone. I did one coat on top of that. And from a distance, the face was reading perfectly. And I didn't want to do a third coat on top of that to ruin the distance effect of it. Because it was a good, nice mix of the two colors. And I realized if I'm going to look at it, I'm going to be looking at it on a shelf. So that's the reason that one looked as blotchy as it did. It was just because it was reading the way I wanted to read from where I was going to be, looking at it from. And sometimes you just don't want to, something's not right, but if you try to change something, it can make it worse. And so it was just kind of, all right, it was my first painting one. I was happy with where it was. Like, I didn't want to rock the boat at that point. So I'm a little more open to trying things out now than the first one. But yeah, that is that. And okay, that's really all I needed. That's really all I wanted to do on the sanding front. So we are not very far in the video, and we are ready for priming time. If I can find my brush. And what I'm using, I have the Extreme Bond primer. This is the good stuff if you have like plastics you want to cover, metals you want to cover, kind of any kind of really hard to get areas. This is what I have. And basically the only reason I'm using this one, I thought I shook it out. Oh, let me shake this a little bit. Yeah, the reason I'm using this one for this model is because it's the one I have in my house right now. So most of the other ones yeah, I don't have here, I don't need here. And actually, speaking of this, there's a big old nail. That's probably shouldn't need much, but yeah, so you'll see when I do the subsequent coats on these guys, I'm not going to resand anything. When I do the subsequent recoat on this guy, you better believe it's going to be resanded. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see visually the reason why, because it's going to be so, the little grains and stuff on here are going to be so minuscule, you're not going to be able to see that it's not smooth. But trust me when I say it, this thing is going to, tactily, it's going to be very, very bad. It is going to be, yeah, it's going to be miserable holding this thing after. Okay. We are into priming time. So priming is very nice in that, let me put the lid here somewhere, in that I don't need to care basically at all about what I'm hitting, what I'm not hitting, or any of that. So I can just pretty much paint whatever I want, because everything gets primed. Nothing doesn't get primed. So I don't need to cut stuff in. So this will still, there's still quantity wise, there's a bunch here compared to the size of the brushes and stuff that I'm going to be using. But generally speaking, priming is extremely forgiving. And I'm okay with that. Alright, so now we need something to talk to for like the next 20 minutes, or talk about for the next 20 minutes, because I already now have 2 videos on the race that I've put out, one for before, one after, to cover all that stuff. I've kind of covered all the other stuff I didn't say before, except one thing I didn't actually say on air last time, that I really should have, was despite how poorly I felt after the race, and despite how poorly I did like on the climbs and the hills and whatnot, none of that matters, because I got the spear throw. I meant to say that on the video yesterday, I didn't, but if nothing else, I got that dang spear throw. I am now 1 behind on my lifetime average on that, before the last Ultra I did. Now again, Spartan has, because the name of the name of the event is Spartan. So in order to live up to that, the main obstacle they always have, they always point out, they always do, it's a spear throw. And you have a target that's like, I believe it's like 8-9 yards away. And it used to be like 3 hay bales stacked on top of each other, like with little kind of fake arms and hands and a head, whatever, on there. You just had to stick it into that. That was like back kind of before I started racing. I started racing in 2018. And so at that point, that was kind of the norm. So I believe it's either 2018, 2019, that was what we aimed at. After COVID, they changed it. It was no longer hay bales. Now it was a slightly skinnier kind of foam target you were aiming for. It was still just, it was the height of 3 hay bales together, but it was a narrower target. They'd cut off like 6 inches on each side. So you had a smaller target to aim at, but it was the same distance away. And I believe up until the previous Ultra I had done, I was something like 6 misses, 6 makes. I was like even on my lifetime average. I had missed, I believe, my first 5, and then I just went on a streak after that, like never missed again, pretty much. So I went into my last Ultra last year, and they changed it again. Rather than, we used to be the hay bale, then they had the foam pieces. Now we have the same kind of foam piece. Well, actually, it's essentially, yeah, the same kind of foam pieces in there, except now rather than being the 3 hay bales high that it was while being narrower, now they cut out a circle at the diameter of what it was. So the diameter of the hole is now a shrunken. Our target area is now much, much smaller than it was before. Before, as long as you were kind of centered left and right, you were fine. You can get distance easy enough. But now you need up and down also in there. And once they did that, I missed both, and I was now 2 behind my lifetime average. I was like, I believe 6 makes and 8 losses. I got it yesterday. So I'm not quite at 50%, but I'm dang close. I'm feeling okay with that. I needed a win at the end. That was near the end of the run. I needed a win. I let out a shout when I got it. I think pretty much everyone does. Although everyone also leaves out shouts when they don't too. It's usually profanity laden, but because it's such a high strung thing. It takes literally 2 seconds to do the obstacle. But if you get it wrong and you miss it, the penalty for that was going to be 30 burpees. And we should do a push up on the ground. Your chest has to hit the ground. You come up. You have to put your hands above your head, and your feet have to leave the ground. And do a little hop. You have to do it 30 times. And I was in such bad shape. That was going to take forever if I had to do that. But oh, thank goodness. If nothing else worked right on the day, I got the spear throw. So on that front, we're good. The bottom is already pretty dry, so I'm just going to put you aside. And we're just going to work kind of from small to big, I guess. My fingers will turn white at the end of this. It just, I don't really care. It's going to happen. So I'm not super concerned about that. Paint comes off. Paint comes off really easy. It's just like if you got super glue in the fingers, super glue comes off, paint comes off too. It happens enough at work. So we just file that under whatever. Okay, I will be doing kind of the undersides of this stuff too, even though you don't see it. This will help keep things, if something didn't harden correctly or whatnot, as long as I paint or prime all the way around it, any moisture in here will have a harder time getting out. It will make it harder to, kind of harder to dry out in a bad way. So if nothing else, this will also add an extra layer of protection. At the same time, a number of these details that I've put in here, once the paint goes on here, some of them are visually going to disappear, unfortunately, depending what color we use and what sheen we have. If we have the semi-glosses, metallics and whatnot, we're going to be finding details I didn't even know I had as light reflects off it. But a lot of this is going to be probably matte, kind of more of a matte painting. He has a lot of fabrics and stuff. He doesn't have much kind of metalwork or things that should be in that semi-gloss kind of phase. So the matte is going to hide a number of details that appear on this, and that just is going to be what it's going to be. And yeah, we still need to model them out just in case you can see stuff. But typically your darker color is going to hide that because, again, your shadows are going to come out dark, and that's what's going to highlight a lot of details is the shadow work. So if you have a character like a lot of blacks and kind of dark grays and stuff like that, they are going to be the ones that suffer from that kind of situation. So again, Bangs, him being basically that the green, the kind of skin tony, the kind of peachy color that he has, and the reds, most of him doesn't really have that issue, but again, it just is. And also, as you're noticing, as I'm painting these, I'm usually doing the underside. I did the underside of that first. I'm doing the underside of this first. So when I put it down, so I can let it dry for a few minutes before doing the upper side, if something sticks to the ground or whatnot, there's not enough mass on, there shouldn't be enough mass on here for it to stick. But if something does stick, it's on the underside. And the finished side that you're going to most likely see is still going to stay in very good, kind of more pristine-ish condition. Don't break this. If I break this, that'll be a shame. I have to do it one more time and maybe get it right on a third time. If I didn't have the race going on like during this past. If I didn't have like that all that last minute kind of craziness heading into that, my brain was just stuck on that race. It was not on this. So if I didn't have that going on, I probably would have done a third attempt at this before getting this priming phase. But again, in the interest of moving forward on things, sometimes you just say, okay, we're moving on at this point, and we'll just let it be what it is. Again, I'm not sitting here doing like the 100-hour model things. I do have an amount of time I'm willing to put into something before just kind of moving on with whatever it is I'm doing. So I said in the past, you can use these as examples for yourself, but you can also, if you're doing your own projects, you can go the extra step that you want to go to make your project look like what you want your project to be. And no, my rocket just fell over. Again, we are doing the underside of this as well. Let's just get the collar on here. Now the collar, as you've noticed before, so now it's a little harder to, it is broken on the side there. It is broken on the side here. That is in order for it to fit actually inside the scarf. It just happened that way. I tried it a couple times. I believe I did that off camera, so I apologize for not mentioning that before. I did do that a couple times, and it just wouldn't fit in there. So if you have noticed that's broken, well, yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, but that was so it could physically fit in the model, or else it, well, I was going to say would have had problems. It did have problems. It absolutely had problems. Okay, I think the hair is going to be, well, for lack of a better term, it's going to be the hairiest part on this whole painting thing. Because part of the reason I think the bangs in the front here are having problems with that is there's so much color contrast between the shades on his hair and the light color and the highlights that I think part of this just being the mute gray color all the way through of just the clay on there, this kind of is also playing tricks with how it looks versus how I think it's supposed to look. So if I choose to go, I can kind of go two choices on the painting. I can do highlights, lowlights, and all that and try to really accentuate things. But I'm curious if I do that just on the hair and not on the body, if that might look weird. Or I can do just kind of a flat, this is what a brown-haired individual will look like, and let nature take care of its course on the color differences. Choices like that are where I think my 30 hours of modeling painting experience is going to show in just judgment calls on what's going to read, what's not going to read. Because that type of situation doesn't come in my day job. We go in painting rooms, painting trim, painting ceilings, stuff like that. So this is going to be one of those areas where it's going to be trial and error. Some things may work, some things may not work. But at the same time, it's paint. If it doesn't work, it's paint. It's easy enough to change. We can always add another coat. We can always add another layer. It's going to be fine. Again, there is a little bit of gumption trying to do one of these projects kind of live-ish. Like I said, when I started, the first video was posted before I really even finished making the body form on it, so there was kind of a leap of faith that this whole thing was going to work out in the end when I first started doing stuff. I'm glad it has so far. At least nobody has left comments in the comment section saying otherwise. Nobody said, why'd you do that? This looks terrible. You should go back and do it again. So I am feeling a little okay based on that. But yeah, as we said, this thing is going live tonight. So all of this painting stuff is generally, it's not 100% live, but we are close to each other again. Now that said, The building phase requires a lot of kind of prep work going in. I need to kind of plan out how I'm doing stuff. I need to kind of visualize how everything's going. It feels like there's a lot of pre-stuff that goes on with that. Painting outside of knowing which colors and whatnot I want to use at any given point, and kind of which mixes I want to use to kind of get the colors right. It's a lot less pre-planning on this than the other part was. So I am feeling better about that, and a little bit more of that collar just came off. That's all that was. How are we doing on time? Well, we're doing that on time. Okay. What time? Okay, I started that time again. 51. Okay, so we have like 25 minutes. I was like, wait a minute. Hold up. No, we're like 35 minutes in. Yeah, primer does look blotchy. I know everyone kind of puts it on. They go, oh, no. I've seen homeowners and stuff try priming things in their houses and whatnot before, and they complain that it looks so bad when they put it on. It's like, no. Primer just goes on blotchy. It is the way it looks. That's why I said this will look worse right now. This will 100% look worse before it looks better. It better look better. I sure hope this is going to look better, or else these next few sessions are going to be even rougher. I'm going to lose all my massive, not quite tens of viewers. Thank you for being here. Really do. But yeah, no, I can see the numbers. Yeah, and actually probably within probably the next like 2 or 3 sessions, I might go, like I said, I have a couple different options for the next model I want to do. And I may put it up to you guys if you have any strong opinions, if you see me in person and have an idea which one you would want to see, let me know. If you don't see me in person, want to put down in the comments section which of the choices out there, if you have a preference. If you don't have a preference, that's fine too. Just, yeah, I can figure that out for myself otherwise. But if somebody will have a preference, that probably in the next 2 or 3 sessions, I'll put that out. Because again, when I say I'm going to take if I were to put that off until the very last episode here that I'm doing, like I said, if I take 2 weeks off to do just something else to kind of decompress after this project and before coming back, when you see me get to that 2-week portion off, I will have already had a week and a half or so of my break done at that point, because painting should go by much faster. I should be able to finish this within probably by the end of this week. I can have like all of the painting done, and it's going to take 2 weeks worth of time to show it to you. So if I were to put that decision off until the end, I'm already going to be running behind on making the next model. So if I want to do that, I actually need to get that out to you sooner rather than later, because by the time I finish painting this stuff, I'm already halfway through my break or more. And I'm going to be kind of starting up and trying to I want to have another like week and a half or so of backlog before I go live again next time. So that is part of the plan. We're up to some of the big guys now. I'm not going to say who they are yet, because again, I'm going to have visuals on them so you can see what's going on and whatnot too. I don't just want to give names out and then not be able to back it up with anything, because I think I generally know where a lot of my audience, where a lot of you guys, what your knowledge base is on some things, and I can almost guarantee you probably haven't had any familiarity with the characters I have this kind of narrowed down to. So visuals might be helpful on that. Visuals may be helpful. Because then all you need to do is, if I put it out there, you get curious, you go online, you kind of go to look up images of them, and all of a sudden the image or the pose, whatever I'm using, doesn't match the ones you're looking up, it doesn't help. So what I'm going to have, it's going to be ready to go, and you can kind of, if you have a strong opinion from what I show, then there we go. But that will be determined at that time. All right, trying to prime inside of all of these little areas. Although priming inside all of those is really easy, it's when we get to the painting phase, you have to paint inside all of those. That's where we get to the trick. As you can see, when you have these large areas that camera. All right, camera's doing a zoomy thing. I can see that. When you have large kind of flat areas like that, that's where the sanding really would have come in handy, but I had the little detail things up here, so I didn't want to go too hard. But that's where it helps the paint stick a little easier. Not just sanding stuff down so you have no high points, but those are the areas where, yeah, it helps the paint stick. And oh no, the camera is doing camera things again. I can see that. That's awesome. I love it when camera does camera things. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do a big workout after this today. I might just go out for a walk or something. Just something to get the legs moving, but without actually doing any kind of hard physical thing. But I do want to get the legs moving again, just so I can get some blood flowing, get some progress on the healing front. For me, I always find blood flow helps on the healing front so much. So usually if stuff happens, I like to, for whatever reason, I feel like just if I have any kind of minor muscle tears or any kind of things that may happen, getting blood flow helps just flush out the system and just makes you feel good. For me, in my mind, it helps things heal faster, but I don't know if that's true or not. But no, if I can just go out, at least go for a walk, something nice and easy, something nice and light. Just kind of get out there. That's what I'm looking towards. That said, I am super happy that I believe statistically speaking, somewhere around the middle of the week this week is the statistical hottest day of the year. I can almost guarantee we have passed that earlier. That was actually earlier in June. But after the middle of this week, nature starts fighting a losing battle. And we start having, the days are getting short enough that it's less likely to hit the hottest kind of days of the year. They will be now finally behind us. And even if we do hit really high numbers, the temperatures don't stay at those really high numbers as long during the day. So whereas like in June and early July up through now, if you have like a 95-degree day outside, it will hit those kind of temperatures kind of in that noon area and stay there till about 4 or 5 o'clock. As time goes on, it may still hit 95 like the second half of July as we get into like August and whatnot, but it may only hang out there for 3 hours, for 2 hours, for 1 hour. So it will still hit the high temperatures, but at least it won't stay there as long. And that makes me very, very happy. It means if I do the night runs and whatnot, they shouldn't be as bad. Again, we have less daylight, so less of the ground holding in and radiating back out any of that extra sunlight that's been coming out. And yeah, no, it's mentally getting through the better part of this week is it's a mental boost. Again, nature can change things. August can always be the hottest month of the year. June can be the hottest month of the year. The actual hottest times can and will vary. But statistically speaking, we're there. We made it. But no, I am feeling very, very hopeful right now that yesterday was just a fluke of the heat stuff. And I do have a chance at the Killington race because I was going up that second climb, and on Strava has one of those segments for the worst part of that second climb. It is roughly a half-mile stretch, and it took me 25 minutes. Last time I was there, I did it in 14. So I was already dehydrated and/or experiencing the heat exhaustion to a light degree at that point, and it just got worse and worse as the day went on. But yeah, no, like I said, the legs themselves seem to be holding out okay, and they don't feel like they put in the work that I feels that at the time it felt like they did. So maybe if I go to Killington, which usually is around like 50 something degrees, I think it's usually in like the 50s, kind of up there. If I don't have the heat factor, we might be okay. I still have a lot of hiking stuff I need to do. Again, now at this point, running is going to be helping out the heart stuff, but it's going to be more important. I think I do more kind of hiking and rucking kind of exercises to prep for that. Because at this point, I just need to know how to go up and down hills. Nothing else is going to matter. I just need to get my body used to going up and down hills, and that's it. Literally everything else would be a bonus. Okay, you're probably not going to see the completion of all of this. I'm looking at the time. Whatever I don't complete priming-wise on camera, I can just do off camera. You know what's going on here, and that's going to be fine. If you want to zoom out right now, that's 100% cool too, because yeah, I'm looking at the time, I'm looking how much is left, and yeah, quantity-wise, it's just a lot of quantity. It is okay if primary goes on very kind of watery like this too. That's also kind of normal. So all right. I also should get more video. Like I said before, I also want to get more videos on this channel of fitness stuff. I have some old kind of trail running ones. I have some old biking ones I could put up. I have a GoPro Hero 3 right now, and I know they're up to much, much higher. They're probably at least like 10 or so iterations more advanced than that nowadays. So it might be nice to maybe pick up another one of those, or I can use what I have and try to just get some of the areas around here. There are some great biking routes, there are great running routes. It would be nice to have, now that I've put some fitness things on here, it would probably be nice to get some more of that going up. I said maybe even next time when I do the next model, it might be modeling 4 days a week and have one day dedicated to like kind of bonus stuff. It might be fitness stuff, it might be gaming stuff, it might be something else. I'm still not sure how much I need to show on the next one, because the idea of this one was to show how long things take to do, just the entire process. Things aren't quick, stuff happens, whatever on that front. And to that extent, I think I showed it. But at the same time, if I'm doing a person, do I need to show both the right and left gauntlets? Do I need to show both the right and left legs if they're both the exact same thing being done? Or can I better use that time for something else, showing some of the other interests? Like I said, if I want this to be a dual kind of interest channel in the end, or it's not just building, and I called it Laurelman rather than something Builderman or whatever kind of channel name, because it was going to encompass a number of different activities to then give myself extra time. I may then sacrifice some of the building stuff to give myself extra time for other activities. I'm not 100% sure yet. So I have some things to mull over for a little while. I probably have about a month to actually mull that over before it kind of comes to fruition again. But, or maybe I just keep things the same until I go through the Killington, and then after that I can start figuring out what I want to do. Just don't rock the boat until then. We'll see. All I know is right now all this stuff looks very, very bad. It's now blotchy as heck. It's in that phase of what am I doing? It looked so halfway decent before. What happened? Why you do this? Well, I do this because now I'm committed. Once you put the primer on, you're 100% committed. Are we going to paint this? Oh yeah. Can't leave it like this anymore. You will be on my Hall of the Guy. You will be the only one painted on my Hall of the Guy. But he will stand out in that regard. If I miss a couple spots with primer, that's going to be fine too. This is, as long as I get the vast majority, I will try to get as much as I can without missing anything. That would be great. But every now and again I get to the painting part of the phase, it's like, oh, how did I miss this little detail-y thing in here? All right, we do need to get inside that. Those are the fun parts that are interesting when it comes to the painting, although thankfully it's green on the sleeve and that. But because once you prime something, you really do need to cover it with paint. Otherwise the white will stand out like, well, it's like a ghost right there. It's just, bam, it's in your face. White against almost any color just stands out like a sore thumb, which I'm not entirely sure where that phrase comes from either. How do they choose something as a sore thumb, as something to compare things to? I don't know. More research to be done on phrasing stuff. All right, how are we on time? Okay, we've a little under 10 minutes to go. So you saw the vast majority of this. I'm going to finish the first half of at least all these things. I'm going to start the other sides of a lot of these, but this was just to allow the other sides to kind of dry. Primer dries almost instantly anyway, but this allows these other sides to dry so that I can kind of flip things over, do the other sides. But yeah, when we come back next time priming will be done. We will be painting stuff. I said, I believe skin tones are going to be early on the list. I'll have a list of like probably 2, 3, or 4 areas I want to get done first, and then we'll kind of work from that. But I know skin tones are always fairly early on that list. And then I'm going to guess boots and stuff are going to be early on the list. The gold detail stuffs, they have to be towards the end because everything else has to be done first. Hair is probably going to be relatively early on in the list. I kind of want the green and red part towards the end, which, although outside of the skin tones and the boots and the hair, there's really not much else in there. Because I don't want to have everything done and just kind of do something small at the end. You want to have like the big wow. I want you to stay watching and keep you drawn to this through the process. So I got to leave something for you to look forward to as this goes on. I can't just give it all right away. There's a little showmanship involved in this, believe it or not. Just a little bit. But unfortunately, I can't leave the gold stuff to the very end, because again, a lot of the gold highlighting and detail stuff I'm not going to be able to do effectively on camera, per se, only because my hands when I'm doing this are kind of far from my face compared to what I want to. I'm nearsighted. I am very nearsighted. When I do detail stuff, I like being really kind of up close and personal on some of these kind of details. And the hair, or not the hair, the decal stuff is going to be incredibly hard to do that to the quality that I want on camera. So that will be done off camera, which means I need something to go after that off camera so that you can actually still see it done and not just do that off camera then never have an episode after this, because that would be very bad kind of showmanship. Okay, this stuff is nice and dry at this point, so we can. I'm just gonna go until we fill up the hour mark, and then we're just gonna have it there. So everything else has been about an hour. Might as well just. I can continue this winning commentary until that point. Hopefully next time I'll have something different to talk about than the race. It would be nice to move on from that. Would be very, very helpful. So we have that didn't have any paint on it or primer on it. Yeah. Okay. At least quantitatively, most of the individual parts will be done, even if the main event pieces will not be done. But at least quantitatively, the individual parts are there. And I think for once I actually have been on camera most of the time, because it's kind of hard not to do this part on camera. Once you know where the camera's aimed at, you just hold everything in the exact same place, and there you go, done. So we're going to get the hair, we're going to have the face, and we're going to be in good shape. Yeah, I'd definitely done most of the stuff before on the other sides of these things. There's not nearly as much on the front half of these things to cover, so they're going by faster. Alright, that one's. Yep, you can see stuff like that in there is where I would go, wait, how did I miss that? Okay, that's good. That is not 100% dry. Okay. Because we're going faster now. Oh, I am hoping that when we paint these eyes white and everything nice and neat here, some of this brow being done too deep will rectify itself when I have lighter colors inside. I am hopeful. It might just be wishful thinking, but I'm allowed to dream just a little bit. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll work. Okay, so we did all that, so it's... Yeah, this is where my fingers start turning different colors. Because some of these, or all these parts now are going faster to do the other sides, these parts aren't having enough time to fully dry by the time I'm picking them up. So, there's that. And again, I just want to get that coat inside just to help give a layer of protection for moisture purposes and whatnot, which will hopefully help the longevity of these guys. They can last longer than they otherwise would. So where are we? Okay, we're pretty much at that hour mark, so we're going to stop right there. Again, all I have left is the other side of the scarf, top of the pants, and the top of that. When we come back next time, we're actually gonna start making this look better again. Again, right now we look a lot worse than we did before. We're in parts, we're blotchy. It's what did I do? Come back next time. We're gonna start on the process. It's gonna start looking better. So until then, enjoy.